Delirious, we're continuing that conversation on the clamor for restructuring. And we've got with us here in the studios the chairman of the political committee of Afenifere. He's a historian. He's also a senator in the Second Republic. He's a professor, Professor Banji Akintoye. How do you feel you prefer the professor than Senator Professor Banji Akintoye?
I don't know. Do it whichever way you like.
Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, as we see there, different people have different interpretations or meanings of what they term restructuring. We also just heard from Alhaji Yakasai. Do you think we can ever be on the same page about the meaning of the concept of the word restructuring?
It's not possible. We're a large country. We cannot be on the same page. What has been lacking in this debate is a federal government that is committed to doing the will of the people. If the federal government is committed to seeing the will of the people done, the thing to do is now to create some sort of structure for sorting out this whole question of restructuring.
Prof,
that's how to do it.
Prof,
there is no other way. We who are citizens can only say this is what we want. We cannot do it. There must be a federal government that provides the leadership for us to sort it out. That is what has been lacking.
Prof, the question will be, what do the people want? Because the conversations around restructuring here have been from different angles. Some want restructuring. Some have defined restructuring as just reforms. Some say restructuring is secession. Some have said it's all sorts of things. So maybe the federal government is asking that question. What exactly do the people want? So how would they go about that?
The federal government does not ask us what we want. The federal government listens to what we are saying across board. Those who are opposed to restructuring, those who are promoting restructuring. And the federal government then says, okay, we will set up a structure whereby you can sort it out among yourselves. And so the federal government provides the leadership for it to be done. That's the way it is. That's the way countries are managed. Countries are not managed by people who say, oh, we are not, you know, I hear the federal government, the president, the vice president constantly telling us, oh, don't play around with the unity of Nigeria. We who want restructuring are not playing around with the unity of Nigeria. We are actually working for the unity of Nigeria because we have come to the very clear understanding that as long as Nigeria is as it is with the federal government, over concentrated power in the hands of the federal government, and with poverty therefore growing in the country, with our young people not having jobs, with thousands of young people fleeing across the desert to get to Europe and dying in the process, and so on. Listen, we cannot continue like this. This has to change. This has to change. My friend Tanko Yakasai likes to talk about, oh, the action group and so on and so forth. Why doesn't he talk of the present?
You said the subject is always divided into two groups.
Just a minute. When he talks about the past, why doesn't he get his facts right? The proposal, the suggestions by Chief Obafemi Awolowo that a country that is like our country must have a federal constitution, and that as much as possible the component units of that federation should be the ethnic nationalities that make up the country. That you walk around that to create a few states. It didn't make it when there was an action group. There was no action group. There was no Western region. There was no Northern region. There was no Eastern region. There was no NCNC or anything. He made it in 1947 when the British started to explore the way forward. How shall we organize this country? In 1949, the leaders of the Yoruba people in the Egbamoduduwa wrote a memorandum on the same issue to the British government, asking for a federation, a properly structured federation. So Tanko Yakasai is talking of the action group times and so on. Yes, Chief Awolowo was consistent all all of the way. He wrote that in 1947, and throughout his life, he never departed from it. And now we are coming back to it, because it is the only way to organize a country like our own. We are not one nation. We are many nations. And each nation has its own territory, its own culture, has its own idea of its own dignity in the world, and wants to do its own things in its own way. The answer is to have a federation in which we adjust all of that and create a few states in which each people can express themselves and manage their own future.
At the moment, the APC say that from September 18, they're going to start what they call this calling for memoranda. They will have 13 public hearings across the country. So they will ask Nigerians, young people, 12 basic questions to determine what they really want. And in that same script, the governor of Kaduna State did say that what is important for the party is to separate the signal from the noise, and that there's a lot of noise about restructuring. So now that they have this committee going around collecting memoranda, do you think that they will actually really get what the people want?
I think doing public hearings is a very positive thing to do in a democratic society. You are opening the discussion to people. You are gathering the ideas, and the purpose is to gather it together and produce your policy. That's good. That's good. But what we fear is that this may just be delay tactics. They really don't want to do this restructuring. You see the point about resistance of anybody in the federal government to restructuring is as follows. A very senior public official and I happened to run into each other after a lecture or something. And, you know, former president of Nigeria. And he was telling me, you know, about, I said, I know you believe in it. I don't doubt that. What I wonder is this: if you become president now, would you carry it out? My fear is that you won't. The reason is that whoever becomes president of Nigeria sees all the money in front of him. It's like the sea. And his all power in his hands. He can tinkle with that money as he likes. And he controls all power. The president of Nigeria is the most powerful official of any country in the world. There are laws that limit the powers of the American president. In Nigeria, there is nothing that limits the power of the Nigerian president.
So what's the solution?
So he is not going to carry it out. That's why they are going around with all these convolutions and so on and so forth. They don't want to carry out. They want to continue to control the power they are controlling. But the power they are controlling makes the federal government too heavy, inefficient, actually disruptive in some ways, and holds the country back in poverty.
Prof, there are three arms.
So we must restructure. We must find a way to restructure. What we are asking our federal government to do is to please be patriotic. Be patriotic. Think of the country, not of the power you control.